Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in with a pretty radical idea for leaders like you. What if the biggest barrier to your company's growth isn't the market? What if it's actually what's happening inside your own mind? And this quote from Les Brown, wow, it just perfectly captures this paradox, this aha moment we're going to unpack today. The idea that real game-changing transformation isn't about what you do, it's about who you become. Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea, the growth paradox. You see, as leaders, our default setting is always to ask, what more should we do to grow, right? But what if the real question, the much more powerful question is, who must we become? This is that critical shift from a strategy based on activity to one based on identity. This slide, it lays it out perfectly. This is the trap so many of us fall into. On the left, you've got that doing or hustle mindset, constantly running, just focused on activity. But over on the right, you've got to focus on being, on expanding your internal capacity. Here's the kicker. Your being actually sets the ceiling for your doing. If you want to break through that ceiling, you've got to start with who you are as a leader. All right, so the big question is, how do we actually make that shift from doing to being? Well, it all starts with redesigning your inner architecture. You have to start seeing that your external reality, it's just a mirror of what's going on inside. I love this slide because it's so simple but so profound. You just can't build a 30-story vision on a 5-story foundation. It's just not going to work. So if you're aiming for that kind of massive exponential growth, you have to go back and architect the internal foundation. We're talking mindset, your team's core beliefs, your whole organizational capacity. It all has to be built to support that kind of scale.
And when we talk about that foundation, we're really talking about the heart of your leadership. It's your internal state, right? Your thoughts, your mindset, your core beliefs. That stuff dictates everything. Your capacity for action, the results you get. Honestly, your company's performance is a direct reflection of this internal architecture. To change the output, you have to re-engineer the input. It's that simple.
Here's a great way to think about it, the sailboat principle. Picture your organization as a sailboat out on the ocean. You absolutely cannot control the wind. That's the economy, the market, your competitors. But you have 100% control over the sail. That's your internal response, your strategy. The wisest leaders, they stop wasting all their energy trying to yell at the wind and instead focus all their genius on adjusting the sail.
And that really brings us to this key takeaway from James Allen. You see, the internal work, that's what drives the external results every single time. Shifting your perspective, strengthening that inner foundation, that is the real strategic work. It's the engine that powers every bit of forward momentum.
Okay, so with that solid foundation in place, where do we go next? Let's talk about expanding your strategic vision. Because once your foundation is solid, the next big imperative is to expand your capacity for those breakthrough ideas. And as we're about to see, your vision is always limited by the size of the container you create for it. This brings me to the frying pan story. It's a fantastic metaphor for how our own mental models can hold us back. The story goes, there's a fisherman who only ever kept the fish that were smaller than his frying pan. Think about that. He was throwing the bigger, more valuable ones back into the water. Why? Because his container was too small. Our minds can be just like that frying pan. If an idea is too big for our current way of thinking, we just unconsciously toss it aside. So this is the question I want you to really sit with. As a leader, how large is your frying pan? Seriously, are your current mental models? Is your team's culture? Are your strategic plans accidentally filtering out the biggest, most game-changing opportunities simply because they don't fit into your current container? This is where we get into what you might call revelation or true strategic insight. This is that ability to see a reality, an opportunity that other people just can't see through their normal analysis. It's your ultimate competitive advantage. And let me tell you, it doesn't come from more spreadsheets. It comes from creating the internal capacity to receive and recognize those unconventional ideas. You know, the ones that others with their smaller frying pans completely miss. But here's the thing. A huge, powerful vision is totally useless if a grasshopper mindset ends up sabotaging the execution. So let's dig into the psychology of execution, because how you and your team see yourselves, well, it determines absolutely everything. This quote, this is probably one of the most critical insights for any leader anywhere. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Just let that sink in.
How your team perceives itself directly, and I mean directly, dictates how the competition and the market are going to perceive you. Your internal self-image literally becomes your external reality. And this chart really illustrates that timeless leadership challenge. Think about the old story of the 12 spies. The vast majority, 83% of them, they looked at the same set of facts and saw only overwhelming obstacles. They had the loser's report. But a tiny minority, just 2 of them, saw the opportunity. As a leader, your single most important job might be to cultivate that minority, that winner's mindset inside your organization. Look, at the end of the day, your organization is going to adopt one of 2 mindsets. There's no middle ground. The grasshopper mindset, it feels small, it measures itself against the problem, it says they're stronger than we are. But the giant mindset, it understands its own capacity. It measures the problem against its purpose and its vision. It says we are well able to overcome this. And all of this brings us to our final and maybe the most critical section: taking the bold step. Because let's be honest, a new mindset and expanded vision, they are completely worthless without decisive action. This is where the strategy hits the pavement. A vision without execution, it's just a hallucination. So what does that look like? It's the winner's mandate. It means acting with urgency. It means embracing audacity. Yeah, biting off more than you think you can chew. It's about leveraging faith over fear, letting go of the comfortable present to grab hold of the future. It's about understanding that those giants you see, they aren't roadblocks, they're signposts pointing you directly toward the opportunity. You've got to strike while the iron is hot. That tomorrow you were talking about yesterday, it's today. Potential is absolutely nothing without execution. The time for endless deliberation is over. The future you've been dreaming about is forged by the actions you take right now. It's time to make a move. So let's bring this all home, right back to where we started. You cannot travel within and stand still without. Real, lasting transformation is an inside-out job. It starts by redesigning your inner architecture, which then allows you to expand your vision, and it must culminate in bold, decisive external action. That internal work, it's the fuel for the entire journey. So what's the one thing you should take away from our explainer today? It's this question. I want you to reflect on your foundation, on the size of your frying pan, and on the dominant mindset of your team. And then ask yourself this: what is the one courageous, bold step that my new vision is demanding I take right now?